for me, that's where, but I'm still grasping the concept that my body, the embodiment, can be better when I'm 80 than it is when I'm 53. I know everything else can be better, and I'm working on trying to change my perspective and see if my reality could be that we're sitting here when I'm 80 and you guys are like, Dave, like, oh my God. All right. My buff brothers, the health of all wealth, the Next Level University. You guys are not together for the first time in a long time, so that must be a good sign that things are going well. All right, let's show people how we rock and roll. We got a full 30 minutes or 28 minutes to rock and roll before we make. I'm on my way to SoFi again. My new office is incredible, so when you guys come visit, no more hotel room throwing up beds on the wall for us to get together. We'll be in the greatest stadium ever built, SoFi, in my new office and podcast studio there. All right. Who's going to lead off and show people how mentoring should be done?
Shall I do it, Alan?
Oh, yeah, man.
So, Dave, obviously one of the biggest parts of your story is losing everything early on. And something I don't know that I've heard you talk about is how you, and if you had to, forgive yourself. Like, how did you forgive yourself? What was the process for you getting over that?
Oh, great question. And yes, sometimes I still have to forgive myself because I get stuck in the realm of, oh my gosh, if I had that, especially now, like every time real estate goes crazy, I think about all the real estate I owned, right? And then I got to forgive myself. Or I'll say, I should have bought that. Oh, it wouldn't matter. I would have lost it anyway. That's like the saving grace. My wife's like, you could have, we could, should have. I'm like, yeah, I would have lost it anyway. So, what good is it in 1993 if I bought that high rise downtown? Yeah, whatever. So forgiveness is through the 5 daily practices and my values, right? Gratitude gives me the perspective of finding light, love, and lessons and everything. So if I actually have the mindset, heart set, and hand set to find light, love, and lessons, it automatically is a forgiving attitude, right? Because you can't love or find the light and love in someone that's attacking you, or in a food that you naturally, don't like the taste of, or an activity that you naturally at its surface don't like, or a person that rubs you the wrong way. The minute you start to take the perspective of finding light, love, and lessons, forgiveness is absolutely necessary. And the only way that we can give forgiveness is to have it. And so then we lead to, okay, I have this perspective of time, space, and gravity, as Blade and I were discussing before you guys got here, but I have this attitude of abundance, of an infinite, limitless world. Well, now I have to forgive myself when I'm not in the flow or in alignment with that. I'm creating interference, void, shortages, and obstacles when I need to forgive myself. And then it makes it quite easy, right? I love that word gravity today we were talking about, right? Gravity is the acknowledgement and awareness that everything has mass, that has energy or emotions tied to it, energy in motion. But even moreover, gravity means meaning. And so as we give meaning to everything we see, and if that meaning is not one in which is reducing the interference but creating it, forgiveness is the washer, right? It cleans away the interference. Mm-hmm. And because it gives us control. Then we can move on to accountability, which says, okay, I did this either in this lifetime, past lifetimes, or future lifetimes. Liability has no place here in blame, shame, and justification. The best thing to do is not waste my time in the interference of blame, shame, justification below the line in the interference world of ego-based consciousness. But moreover, I am accountable because I am searching right back to the lessons to grow, accelerate, and expand, to have peace. And guess what? When we execute on the feeling of accountability at peace, forgiveness is in action. So those three in the continuum execute to create effective communication with the greatest source of energy, light, love, and lessons, and through appreciation, forgiveness, and accountability, adding value to it and giving it away to others to help them do the same, to clear the interference, not just between us and the great source, but us and everyone else, to empower them to empower others to do the same, exponentially creating a collective consciousness of a higher vibration or frequency. And this, to me, is an essential part of every single thing that I do. And it's not just once. You can't just say, oh, I did this, I forgive myself, right? That's what I think so asinine about, some of these horrendous perpetrators of truth and they're on their deathbed, in jail, being put to death, maybe even, and in one statement they seek forgiveness, by accepting Christ or whatever. Just because you say that doesn't mean you've cleared all the interference that you've created, right? And just because you say I forgive myself, it's just the same way to say I want to quit smoking because I quit smoking today. I've now quit smoking. We all know that the conscious continuum doesn't work that way. It's a good start, and maybe you'll get some break in the universe as your body expires here. It's a good start. Maybe you're sending a story or a lesson to yourself for your next lifetime that you're going to start off in a different place without the unconscious competencies that have created you to create interference and harm others or attack others.
So just to clarify on that, so basically what you're saying, Dave, is that so some people say I forgave myself and they're done, right? And that's what's frustrating because it's a practice.
Yeah, is one of the biggest. Gratitude's a practice. Forgiveness is a practice. Accountability is a practice. And effective communication is a practice. And the way that you practice is instituted into the 5 daily practices by saying, today, this is what I want personally, experientially, giving and receiving. This is who can help me and who I can help with it. How I'm going to get it done by understanding productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, studying our calendar, utilizing efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical success, and then determining through the what, the who, and the how, the now, which is the time, space, and gravity that Blaine and I were talking about. The now is the process of prioritization within the alignment of my what, my who, and my how. See, most people, I know when somebody is executing on a what, a who, and a how, they are people who can make decisions quickly and they can prioritize by what's most important because they actually know what's important to them because they've taken the time to practice the what, the who, and the how. And now they're practicing prioritization, which is determining what activity has the most value in my day. And that's what I'm going to do now. And when that doesn't happen or it does happen, here's what I'm going to do next, determine upon the what, the how, the who, and the how. And then if you do that, you're blessed. Why? Because once you know the what, the who, the how, and the now, you can apply your why. You're not in search of your why. See, you apply your why. Your why is that connectivity, the greatest source of love, light, and lessons. Your why is how you feel. Your why is the desire that you must be what you can be, to do your best, to expand, grow, and accelerate. You apply that to the what, the who, the how, and the now. See, when you have nothing to apply why to, you're in search of why. So people get confused and they think, well, I'm not finding. Well, you can find light, love, and lessons in everything and apply your why to it, from taking out the trash to any activity you get paid for or any activity you don't get paid for.
So what you're saying is don't get lost down the rabbit hole of trying to find your why the whole time. So I was listening to it was a meetup that you gave in 2018 that you just repurposed on the playbook. And you basically said, go up to somebody and ask them what they want. And you'll be blown away at how few people actually know. And so what you're saying is that people are trying to find their why, what's my purpose? But if you don't know your what, you can't actually even apply your why anyway. So start with what? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And then the fastest way to the what is the who, right? Someone who can give you directions to exactly where you want to be because they're there already. Then the how becomes, Bob Proctor-esque. If anyone studies Bob Proctor, he doesn't worry about the how.
Right.
Right? Because the how is a matter of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. The how is a matter of studying the activity you get paid for and the activity you don't get paid for. The how is created by angling to what you want, by learning the lessons faster and faster. And if you know your what and your who, you can learn the lessons faster and faster. And then the guidepost, the GPS, is the now, right? What to do now. See, when you have the aspect that I don't know what I don't know, I'm not going to take myself so seriously, but I'm going to give everything I have, that I must be what I can be, right? I have that law of Goya in place. None of it takes effect unless you know the what and the who, then the how, and then the now itself prioritizes all of those, and then you can apply your why. You apply your why when you're moving, when you're executing. You can't apply your why when you're sleeping. Right? What we can do is download information to help determine our what, our who, and our how tomorrow, but it's not going to apply our why. And it's an interesting, chasm that people get caught up in. Is so many people on earth are in search of something that they can't find because it's already inside of them. It's already there.
I love the analogy you used, Dave, of somebody loses their keys in their house at 4 a.m. and they go outside and look under the street light because that's where the light is. I absolutely love that analogy.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer.
Yeah. Dave, you talk a lot about asking and attracting. And I think Alan and I have gotten way better at asking and attracting. Where do you think the resistance from receiving comes from? Because I think that's a little bit, Alan and I had this conversation the other day. I think we have a bottleneck when it comes to receiving. I think we're better at asking. Where do you think the resistance from receiving comes from?
All ego-based consciousness, a need to be separate in some form. Either a need to be superior or a need to be inferior. And those needs, manifest themselves that I'm not worthy of it or I don't need it. Right? See, when you change the construct of receiving to I receive so I can give, when you truly grasp this concept, you're going to be as excited about receiving as giving, because, if you had a Ferrari and you loved it, right? You loved the Ferrari, but you had no gas. As far as I know, there's not an electric Ferrari right now. So if you had no gas, what good's your Ferrari? See, but when you said to yourself, I love the Ferrari and what the Ferrari needs is gas, therefore I am going to be so grateful to receive gas. I want gas so bad, right? I don't really want the Ferrari. I want to help the Ferrari by giving it gas. And so when you realize that we love each other, right? We're here to be of service and of value. And I want to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. In order to do that, I need to receive happiness.
Right.
And I need to shop for the right things that can buy happiness. And, whether that's allowing someone to have opportunities, allowing someone to have an inspirational, educational awareness, or whether it's someone happiness is provided by providing them sustenance, food, education, whatever it may be. I every day am so fired up to receive, and even more excited because I get to give it away and realize what I receive when I give it away.
Go ahead, Kev.
I was just going to say, where do you think the need to feel inferior comes from? I think the need to feel superior makes sense, but what's the why under somebody needing to feel inferior?
Comparison is the thief of joy, my friend. So when we are comparing ourselves, it's one of the biggest lessons I've been teaching this last week, right? So many people take for granted what other people are wishing for, right? We're taking, and this happened to me. I was keynoting with Mike Tyson in Chicago last week, and one of the better speeches that I've ever given. 2 people left crying, an inspirational speech. And I step off stage and a woman collapsed and was breathing very heavy. And then as I kind of walked around and let people help her that knew what they were doing, there's a doctor in the house, etc., the lady screamed that was helping her, "Oh my God, she's not breathing." At that moment, the 1,000 people in the room immediately realized we all were taking for granted what everybody was wishing for at that moment, right? A breath. And that's happening every day during the pandemic, that people are realizing, gosh, I'm taking for granted what other people are wishing for. And within that construct, that makes us feel inferior and separate than anything else, because we're not worthy. If we're taking for granted things, we're not worthy of other things. And when we have appreciation, forgiveness, and accountability, when we believe that we are living in the realm between limitlessness and infinity, and all we have to do is clear the interference, we now don't feel inferior. Because see, if you think that you are supposed to attract things that don't exist, or you have to make it happen, then if it's not happening, you must not be worthy of it happening. If you haven't attracted it to yourself, you must not be worthy of it. And then that other people who have it already, you must be what? Inferior to the people who have what you want. Instead of elevating and celebrating others, not creating resistance, void, shortages, obstacles, and separation of others, which makes us feel inferior, superior for no reasons at all. But when we're connected to and through everything and everyone, we're elevating and celebrating other people And now we feel what? Connected to and through them, not separate, inferior, superior to them.
Hi everyone, my name is Bianca Thomas. I am the host of the WhyPower Podcast, and I'm also a client of both Kevin and Alan. I had the absolute pleasure and honor and honestly the blessing of meeting both of these extraordinary men at the beginning of their journey, you know, when the Hyperconscious podcast was just at its beginning. And to keep it short and sweet, these two guys have completely changed my life. Because of them, I've been able to really learn how to love myself, to express myself, to go past my fears and have the courage to do things that I never thought I would have done, like having my own podcast. I'm a little over time, but I just want to say, you know, if there's anyone out there who wants a coach, who wants help, who wants two people to lean on, it's these two guys. They are rare, extraordinary men, and I'm so lucky to have them in my life.
So, Dave, in the context of comparison, when it comes to feeling inferior, I think what happens to a lot of people is they'll compare a weakness that's unconscious. So unconscious competency, you know, subconscious, conscious, they're comparing to someone else's strength, their weakness. And if they were to do the opposite, they would realize that they're not inferior. So from your perspective, how do people make sure that they're not comparing someone else's highlight reel and their natural unconscious competencies to their own things they weren't necessarily born with, right? I mean, Kevin can spend the rest of his life trying to be as tall as me. It's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean he's any inferior. You know, just like I can try to be as strong as him or as muscle bound, but he's a mesomorph. I was an ectomorph. So
Right.
What's from that perspective, from that lens, can you explain where this inferior superior thing comes from? Because I think it stems from that.
Yeah, I think it's relative to that, right? I'm not sure it stems from it. And I'd like to always point out to people, be careful in the words that we choose, because if we are now saying that it stems, that means it grows from that seed. It actually, you know, is just relative to it. And let me explain why, because weaknesses and strength are relative to the place that they are. So if, for example, your height is a strength on the basketball court,
Right.
and, you know, Kevin's height is not, it is a weakness. But if I put Kevin in a middle seat on a commercial airline, his height is a strength and your height is a weakness.
Yeah.
And in the realm of things, you're not a professional basketball player. And in a realm of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, you know, the amount of, you know, strength of benefit, you know, Kevin has an advantage or relative advantage over you if you're flying 200 days a year and not playing basketball 200 days a year.
Right.
And so when we start realizing and appreciating, adding value to, and celebrating each other and elevating each other, because to elevate others is to elevate ourselves. To celebrate others is to create a celebrity of ourselves. You know, when we start realizing the connective tissue that we have that's not necessarily apparent with the human eyes. Okay, there's a connective tissue that we cannot see. Why would one branch compete with another branch? We're all on the same tree.
Right.
And so when you can shift your mindset, heart set, and handset of what we give and receive to truly believe and understand that your height is my height, my shortness is your shortness, and that we have different capabilities. So if there is, you know, an opportunity, we are trying to move people's strengths to a place that they're strengths, not move their strengths to a place that they're weaknesses. And I tell the story about, you know, SAP, when the CEO of SAP was looking for human testing of software, and there was a huge shortage because human beings don't like to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again all day. And he's trying to think economically, how are they going to be able to test all these companies' softwares that are being created? And he realizes, he comes home looking at his son who has, you know, is on the spectrum, that his son loves to do the same thing over and over and over and again. The greatest weakness that society has put on his son, that he's on the spectrum, that he has Asperger's, right, now becomes a strength to SAP, and they hire thousands of people and give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary to test software, which they enjoy innately within their quantum being, just like you're quantumly tall and Kevin and I are quantumly short.
Right.
And now we've moved a weakness and made it a strength, and everybody feels better. We've elevated each other and celebrated each other.
Right.
So powerful. On our last call, Dave, we were talking about the consistency, how consistent you are as a human being. One thing that I've never seen you, I don't want to say talk about, but seen happen to you is you burn out. What do you think a common misconception of burning out is? Like, what's something more people need to know about burnout?
Burnout's a matter of staying in the anxiety zone too long, right? Burnout is a matter of not vacationing every day, not having an unwinding routine. Burnout is creating interference, right? Burnout is creating the interference. So slowly but surely, there's more and more interference, and you're not able to draw from the greatest source of light, love, and lessons at all times. See, my focus and paradigm, once it's to clear the interference, I just receive more and more energy. So I'm continuing getting away from ever burning out. And, that consistent behavior, the discipline that I have, the routine that I created, and the adaptable routine based on 4 core values of gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and inspiration, based on 5 daily practices of knowing my what, my who, my how, my now, and my why, right? Applying that. And look, I give this stuff away for free, as you guys know, right? I'm going to repeat right now, david@dmeltzer.com. I will give you this. They're in my book. I'll sign it to you, send it to you, pay for it, ship it, email, whatever you want. Just please, david@dmeltzer.com. There is no burnout in my life. I have it would almost be physically impossible for me to burn out, because as long as I stick to that routine, I think people that tell me, I got to go on 6 weeks vacation, go off the grid, etc. Why would you do that? Like, why would you want it is so far from my belief system of how to access energy and to be productive, accessible, and gracious. I vacation every day. I stop, drop, and roll every day. I don't allow myself to get outside of any interference. Like, my interference every day, my net result in a day is to decrease the amount of interference between me and that which created me, that which I'm connected to and through, and everybody else. So if I'm learning every day how to do that, to make it minutes and moments with the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, whatever else creates resistance, then I'm in no jeopardy of burning out.
Is that why you have a sleep coach as well? Because
for sure.
Sleep is okay. So Dave, I think a lot of people have a belief subconsciously or unconsciously that they are going to get worse over time. Like they're not going to function as optimally. And I, even listening to you 2 years ago, earlier today, like on my commute to the studio today, it was clear that you've gotten better, genuinely. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You've clearly gotten better.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people have the opposite belief, which self-perpetuates itself. So you're getting better and you're more accessible and productive now today as a 50, I think, what are you, 52? 53. And do you believe that at 55, you'll be even more effective than you are now?
No doubt.
Okay. So
mathematically, there's no doubt.
Okay, perfect. And I agree with that too, but people think I'm crazy. So, what is underneath this, and how do we help people shift that paradigm?
Embodiment. So people are confusing the temporary state that exists in the realm, the man-made construct of time. Eventually, right, the body does diminish in its capacity. And I know that there's people in the mindset realm that says that is a man-made construct as well, the idea that the body ages.
Right.
And you can see that we've learned to increase, I've never seen more beautiful 80-year-old women in my life. They're not, like, because they don't believe, they don't go into the mindset that when they're 50, they're an old person and wearing a mock, and sitting on and rocking, they're staying active. And I don't know if people, if that is truly the same type of mindset that I believe exists in the subconscious and unconscious, that you only get better, expand, grow, and accelerate and learn. See, I know in the mindset realm that if you're learning, you're growing, and you're only going to be better. And if you practice something, you'll only get better and better. That's what excites me about what I do. That's what excited me about Bob Proctor, is that when I sat there years ago when he turned 80 and I could have retired again, and my wife is like, let's go travel the world. You go at it so hard every day, and I'm like, oh, I give me until at least I'm 60 to change what I'm doing, but because my youngest son will be going to college, right? I'm not, there's no reason, to travel the whole world when I want to be with my children. So I said, what can I do? And I'm watching Bob Proctor and I'm like, holy the moly, right? This guy's better than he's ever been. And the funniest thing is he's still reading the same slides that he was reading 20 years ago. He hasn't even changed the slides. The only thing that's changed is not on a turnstile projector. It's actually on a computer. But like literally the guy's reading the same slide, but he's better. That's why I said thank you to you, because I said the same thing to Bob. I was listening to you, and I hope you don't take offense, but you're better. You're better now than when I met you. He's 80, traveling the world, teaching and empowering and elevating and celebrating. And so for me, that's where. But I'm still grasping the concept that my body, the embodiment, can be better when I'm 80 than it is when I'm 53. I know everything else can be better, and I'm working on trying to change my perspective and see if my reality could be that we're sitting here when I'm 80 and you guys are like, Dave, like, oh my God, I remember when your arms look like that. Now look at yourself.
Dave, sorry, Kev, I didn't mean
No, you're good. Hammer.
I wanted to ask you about this because it's like, and do you have any regrets around the way you used to treat your mind and body because you realize the negative compound effect it's had now that you're older and older and older? Because honestly, I'm 32. Again, I'm young, but like I do have some regrets about the way I treated my body and how I didn't take sleep as seriously as I do now. Like, of course, and again, I don't live in regret. I use that as fuel to be better in the future. But what do you think you should have done better to take care of your brain and your body and your heart and your soul from a younger age?
Yeah, I don't regret it. I actually take a different perspective. I'm so grateful that I finally learned the lesson.
Okay. All right, perfect.
I am like, you just don't wake up and know these things. Right. And look, I will articulate this again, this idea of aggregation, acceleration, and compound interest of, habits, it works in negative behavior's favor, right? Because when we have a negative habit, like partying, right, creating interference in our life, we don't expect a negative result ever. Right. And yet it aggregates on itself. And when we're 90% of the way there, we finally get an awareness of a result. And then, it gets difficult because it's doubling. And then pretty soon it's doubled and doubled and doubled. And we got a really tragic result. Well, the problem with positive habits, especially when we're younger, when we don't know what we don't know, and we have to learn the lessons by identifying pain, struggles, setbacks, failures, and mistakes. And then we get the lesson is when we have a positive behavior, and you guys know this in the realm of that you teach, right? People want instant results. They start working out with you guys, right? And 2 weeks later, they're like, I haven't lost any weight. I'm sore. Like, come on, it's the same exact math that applies. Behavior is behavior. And so I have no regrets at all. I would prefer you guys change the words that you use to, I'm so grateful that I've learned that lesson.
Right.
And I started aggregating things in the right direction and trajectory.
What lessons in particular did you finally learn where it's like, oh, I'm so grateful that I learned that lesson? Because had I not learned that lesson, I wouldn't be able to be so productive and accessible at 53.
Yeah. So number one, to prioritize my health, right? I will repeat this to everyone. When you are healthy, you get as many wishes as you want every day. and there's nothing more valuable than a wish. When you're not healthy, you only have one wish. And so to put my health, a minimum of an hour a day on my health, has been the greatest lesson. And so when you put and prioritize your health, you're not going to do things to create interference with that which you already are. See, the other big nuance and lesson that I learned through the whole progression is I am healthy. I am happy. I am worthy. And I am wealthy. What am I doing to interfere with that?
Right.
See, once I shifted that paradigm, it became a great lesson, because instead of thinking I'm going to go get healthy, I'm going to go get wealthy, I'm going to go get worthy, I'm going to go get happy. What do I need to do? Where's my why? Right? I followed these values and the what, the who, the how, the now, and applied my why and realized I am all these things. What am I doing to interfere with it?
Dave, we love you. We appreciate you. I think we got to let you go. All the love, all the gratitude.
The greatest guys in the world. I'm telling you, I learned more from you two over these years, and I'm so proud of both of you. As a celebrant in the elevator, like I said, there's no greater joy in my life to have elevated others, to elevate myself, and to empower others like you two that are now empowering so many people. I celebrate you both. Congratulations, and I love you too. Thank you.
Dave, thank you so much. I just want to say this really quickly. I've had many, many mentors, and the more mentors I've had, the more and more I appreciate what you are doing for Kevin and I, because when it comes to the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, your consistency and your persistency is truly unmatched. And I just admire that very much. I listened to your thing. It was about coaches, trainers, and mentors, and the difference of them. And you're all three for us. So I just want to say thank you again. Seriously.
Thank you, my brothers. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. The greatest mentees in the world, Kevin Palmieri and Alan Lazaros.